Click here to start streaming. All right. Okay, I'm not sure what streaming service is oh shoot, I think it's YouTube, and YouTube doesn't work very well. Hey guys, if I sound like a robot or if there's audio issues, can you let me know in the chat there that there's audio issues? Because when I go live through YouTube, it for some reason does not understand or it does not get my mic very well. All right, I'm gonna pop in the chat. Are there audio issues or do I sound normal? Boop, boop. Oh, this is cool. You can really see the cat fur in this light. All right, well, if you ever wondered if I was a real librarian, that should prove it, right? Okay. It says to waiting. Well, I'm live now, so it shouldn't say to waiting. It should say that I am here. Concur. Oh, great. This one worked really well yesterday, so naturally today it's just not going to work at all. Okay, well. All right. So let's talk about retirement then. Um, yeah. Get shareable link. Oh my gosh. All right, let's talk about retirement. I think good. Okay, so this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. This is educational and informational only because retirement in America is way too confusing. And I have had multiple PhDs who can who can speak dead languages or do math that would make me cry, basically not knowing what stocks or bonds are, like how their retirement works. So if you feel confused about how retirement works, it is not you. It is genuinely confusing, and that's what we're going to fix today. So today it's just educational and informational. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat as we go. I'm going to be explaining the main differences between the types of retirement accounts, focusing on the most common versions, 401ks, 403bs, and IRAs. And I'm going to be talking about situations where you use one or another, or maybe all. And I'm going to talk about how these make money. So I'm going to be talking about like what are index funds and stocks and bonds and what do they have to do with your retirement account. So that way you can have informed conversations with your HR representative, with your accountant, with your financial advisor if you have a financial advisor, and not feel stupid because you'll actually know what's going on. Okay, now this is all in celebration of the 2024 money reboot because I know a lot of you out there, I'm going to put a link to the money reboot. I know a lot of you out there have high expectations with your money. You want to get better with your money this year. You want to take action. And in order to make those New Year's resolutions, those financial resolutions you might have made stick, you need to have three things. You need to have the education and the understanding of like what all this stuff is. You need to actually practice. You need to do the thing. And then inevitably, when roadblocks or questions come up, you need to have support and feedback for when that happens. So you need three things to get better and to take actions on your money: education, practice, support, and feedback. If you don't have someone in your life who can provide all this stuff, that's what the 2024 Money Reboot is. And it's coming Monday at 2:30 and 6:30 Central Time. we are going to get this stuff done together. It's going to be amazing, but you got to sign up at the link. It's not going to be live on YouTube or Instagram or anything like that. It's going to be through that link. So you will get education. You're going to get a chance to practice and support and feedback, all of that stuff, so that you can save oodles, you can get out of debt faster, more easily, and you can really feel like a financial adult. Because to get that thing, all that stuff, it only takes a little bit of education, it takes practice, and it takes that support for when you invariably run into roadblocks. So sign up for the 2024 Money Reboot. I put the link in the chat. Okay. Here's the skinny on, sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Here's the skinny on saving for retirement. It used to be in America that you would get a pension if you worked for a company for a long time and whatnot. And a pension is just a fixed payment to you through retirement. And how much that would be dependent on your salary and your years of service. Now, very few companies or organizations offer pensions anymore. Instead, most people, if you have access to an at-work retirement plan, it's going to be a 401k, or called a 401k, if you work for a for-profit organization. It is going to be called a 403b if you work for a nonprofit organization, and it's called a 457 if you work for the government. But the government has all kinds of other benefits as far as retirement goes. So you probably have to speak with them, your boss, to understand all the different retirement benefits you get working for the government. Now, let's see here. These retirement vehicles, we're going to call them retirement vehicles, these accounts allow you and your employer to put money in towards your retirement before taxes. If you want to save independently from your employer, then you would, and like they're not trying to mess with people here. You would open an independent retirement account, otherwise known as an IRA. Okay, they're not trying to confuse anybody. So that's like the first thing to know about the retirement accounts, is that you have at work ones, 401ks, 403bs, 457, and you have IRAs, which you can still use in most situations, even if you have access to an at-work account. And there are limits on contribution amounts for all of these. So I'll go over that in a second. The second thing to know about this, the difference between all these accounts, is when are taxes paid. So when you put money into a 401k or a 403b, it is all pre-tax money. So the money goes in without having paid tax on it. It grows with no taxes getting paid on it. And then when you go to pull it out, when you're in retirement, that is when you pay taxes on that money. Same thing with an IRA. The money goes in before taxes. So it goes in tax-free. It grows tax-free. But when you pull it out, that's when you pay taxes on it. Whenever you see the word Roth in front of a retirement vehicle, and you see a Roth 401k, a Roth 403b, a Roth IRA, that means the money has already been taxed. So the money goes in after you pay taxes on it. And then it grows tax-free. And when you pull it out in retirement, you don't pay taxes on it because you've already paid taxes on it. That's all that word Roth means for the most part. Okay. And let me know in the comments if the audio is weird, please. I'll type that in, because if the audio is weird, you're probably... Let me know if there are audio issues. Thanks. Okay. So that is the second thing you need to know, is when are taxes paid on the money? Generally speaking, so what this means for you is, if you're like, well, Kate, which is better? When you're purely looking at the math of it, you always want to pay taxes when when the amount of taxes you'd have to pay, like the percentage, is lowest. And the thing is, you don't know what your tax rate is going to be in 30 years. So it's hard to gauge, like, well, should I do Roths or should I do pre-tax investment vehicles? Sometimes it's really easy. Like if you are a high income earner now, then you probably want to lower the amount of taxes that you're paying right now. And maybe you're like, well, yeah, but because I'm paying my mortgage and I've got kids and then I'm going to put them through college. And so I've got a lot of expenses. But when I'm retired, the mortgage is going to be done. The kids are going to be out of school. They're going to be self-sufficient. So my expenses will be much lower. So I know that I want to pay taxes on the stuff, on the money in retirement. So then for you, it would mathematically make more sense to put it into the pre-tax vehicles. But for many people who are lower income now and expect their income to rise and to be in a higher tax bracket when they're in retirement, that's when those Roth vehicles make a lot more sense. And again, this is not financial advice, this is just education. So I'm just telling you about the math of it. Okay. So the third thing you need to know, first thing was the retirement accounts are either at work or independent. Second thing is when do they take the taxes out? The third thing you need to know is that unlike a savings or a checking account, oh, Jared said audio is good. Thank you. Unlike a savings or checking account, there's going to be an extra step when you put money into an IRA or a 401k or a 403b. You can't just put money into that account and expect it to grow and to do things. You actually have to invest it into the stock market. And that's where things get really hairy and confusing for most people. So let's boil this down. First off, I'm going to explain to you the most basics of how the stock market works. The stock market, so when you hear what is a stock, a lot of us can use that word. A lot of us kind of know what it means, but probably couldn't define it. So the actual definition of a stock is owning a piece of a company. A stock is ownership of a company. It is a tiny ownership. It's like literally a grain of sand on a beach worth of ownership of a company, but technically ownership of a company. A bond is when you act like a bank and you lend money to banks or governments. Sorry, not banks. When you lend money to corporations or governments. And just like for you, if you have a mortgage or a car payment and you pay that payment with the interest, corporations and governments are paying that loan back with a little bit of extra money. Thank you very much for loaning us this money. That's the difference between stocks and bonds. Because stocks are far riskier, those have a much greater chance for rewards because the risk is higher. Because bonds are generally far less risky, you're not going to make nearly as much money by putting your money into bonds. That's the difference between the two. So most financial advisors will recommend a mix of those based on your situation, your risk level, or your risk tolerance. Like, you know, if you're 25, you can ride out a lot of markets before you go into retirement versus if you're 65, 75, 85, you can't risk losing a lot of money when you're at that point in your life. So chances are you would have lower amount of your money in stocks and more of your money in bonds. Those are the general rules of thumb. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, stocks, you can make a ton more money. So I'm just going to put all my money into stocks. No personal finance educator worth their salt who isn't trying to fleece you will encourage you to put money into individual stocks if your goal is to have a strong retirement. The reason for this is that, like, let's look at two companies from the 90s, Apple and Enron. In the 90s, you would have made very little money on Apple stock. People would have been like, what are you doing with Apple stock? That company is going nowhere. And if you look at their stock price history, it was literally like 40 cents a share in mid 90s. Enron, however, strong company, doing great. That people would have been like, that's a really smart buy. Okay, but we all know what happened. And if you haven't seen The Smartest Guys in the Room, that's a great documentary on the Enron scandal, but Enron just totally tanked. You would have lost all your money if you had put it into Enron. But if you had put it into Apple, you would be sitting pretty right now. Thing is, nobody's got a crystal ball. I mean, I don't. If you do, then use it. But I've never run across a working crystal ball. So nobody knows which company is going to be the Apple and which company is going to be the Enron. Therefore, to mitigate the risk, instead of putting all your apples into one stock basket, one company's basket, they've created, financial institutions have created what are called index funds, where they actually buy like a ton of different stocks or different bonds, just all kinds of different companies and debt and whatnot, and they put it into one basket. So when you buy in an index fund of, let's say, the S&P 500, you're buying a tip of every single company in the S&P 500. And because this mitigates your risk, so if one of those is an Enron, no big deal because you're only going to lose a little bit. But it also mitigates the rewards. So if one of those is Apple, you're only going to gain a little bit. But over time, over decades, the stock market in general goes up and up and up and up and up. So you're going to capture all of those increases in your money. Great. And if you have any questions as we go, please pop them in the chat here. Oh, and make sure to give this a like. That way the algorithm knows to show it to more people. All right. Something I want to talk about then. So when you're like, okay, I get it. Index fund sounds like a good idea. But when you're actually signing up, when you're looking at it, they might have hundreds of index funds for you to choose from. And you're like, ooh, that gets confusing. And if you're not a professional financial advisor, which do you choose? That's where target date funds come in. So target date funds are sort of like index funds on steroids. They use a mix of stocks and bonds. They buy a little bit of a ton of different stuff, and they base it on when you're going to need the money. So a target date fund, and whatever company you have your retirement funds through, they might call it something else. They might have a cutesy name for it. But basically, if you see a fund that has a year in it, 2045, 2050, 2055, 2060, that kind of thing, that's a target date fund. And they do all the work for you because they know if you've got a really long time horizon, you can risk a lot more money because you want to capture the rewards in the stock market. Versus if you're going to need that money sooner, they're going to put it mostly into safe investments. And they'll do all that work for you. You don't have to do anything. You just put the money into the target date fund. So target date funds are a really, really useful product for many people who are just trying to make sure that they're going to have a good retirement investment. Okay, so I would say whenever you're looking at index funds, at target date funds, passively managed, which means that kind of computers, they set up an algorithm and the computer does all the work, are going to cost you a lot less than actively managed funds. Actively managed means that there's actually a person, maybe even a team of people in charge of the buying and selling of everything that is in that fund. And beware the fees of all of this stuff. It is bonkers. You might see, oh, they take 1 or 2% and think that that's not much. Google how much those fees cost over decades. It is insane how much money they eat away at your wealth over the course of decades, that 1 or 2% per year. It's absolutely crazy. So beware of that. Now, all that is to say, for some people, you want to work with a financial advisor because you simply wouldn't be making the moves. You need somebody calling you saying, hey, you haven't put in all your money for this year. Do you want to put in for retirement for this year? And you go, oh, yeah. And you send them $5,000. You need that person, or you need that somebody you can call if and when the market tanks. So financial advisors are great for a lot of people, but if just having the target date fund and you're on top of all this stuff, then maybe financial advisor isn't right for you. Again, you're going to have to weigh your situation and speak with some financial advisors. Maybe they could help you out, maybe not. Who knows? But beware of fees and costs when you are signing up for your retirement program. They should be fairly transparent. The federal government makes them be fairly transparent with the costs of these things. So let me break this down to the rules of thumb for most people. If you have an at work 401k, 403b, always get that match. Just always get that match. They're trying to give you free money. You don't get the money now. You will get it down the road, but they're trying to give you free money. So why are you saying no to free money? Get that match. Then for most people, if you hit all the limits, or if you are within the limits, you'll want to then max out your Roth IRA. For most people, that's a good move. And then once you max out the Roth, you go back to the at work and you increase that one until you get the max at work. In 2024, you can have a combined total between an IRA or an at work of $23,000. If you're over 50, you can have a combined total of what you put in of $30,500. But the combined total with what you put in and what your employer puts in for 2024 is $69,000. And if you're over 50, you have an extra catch up of $7,500 on top of that. So that's pretty cool. What questions do you guys have for me right now? Somebody when I did this on Instagram asked about a backdoor Roth, which is basically for people who are above the income limits of being able to put into a Roth IRA. And that's when you need to work with an accountant or financial advisor or the company that is in charge of your investments. So like your Vanguards, your Fidelities, your Charles Schwab, and do more research online. There's a million different articles about a backdoor IRA, Roth IRA. So if you're above the Roth IRA income limits, that is an option. You'll need to speak with your accountant, though, to find out how that will affect you, because you do have to pay taxes on that money when you convert it into a Roth. Other questions? Because I know that retirement is so confusing for so many people. And I want to make sure that you feel comfortable with it, that you could actually go in and have a conversation with your financial advisor, with HR. A lot of at work places will bring in representatives from whatever company they work with to handle your retirement. So like if you're a teacher, maybe a TIAA CREF type situation. And now you can have a useful conversation with them, because this stuff is super confusing. It isn't just you. Now, again, if you have 2024 money resolution that you want to do, come out to the 2024 money reboot. It's going to be awesome. It's going to give you everything you need to really take action. All that stuff you've been meaning to do or you're not quite sure about, you're going to get the support, you're going to get the education, and we're actually going to have time for you to do the stuff. And then when you have questions or come across roadblocks, you're going to have me to chat with and say, hey, Kate, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And it's going to be awesome, but it's not going to be here on YouTube. It's only live through web streaming service. It's Monday, January 29th at 2:30 and 6:30. It's going to be amazing. Come out to the 2024 reboot. I will pop that link there back in the chat. If you're watching this after the live and have questions or comments, pop them in the comments section and I will get back to you. Make sure to give this a like so that other people can see it. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? Come on, man. This is the best channel on the YouTube. Actually, okay, that's a lie. I know that. There are many channels that show cute stories of baby animals, and those are probably the best channels on YouTube. And also Pasta Grannies. I don't know if you watch that one too, but it's just like 90-year-old women in Italy who are showing you how to make pasta, and it's amazing. Come back tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about money lessons from the fantasy universe of Sarah J. Maas. It's going to be amazing. That is January 26th, Friday at 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern. And thank you guys for coming out. Cheers. Take it easy. Let's see if I can figure out how to end this stream in a way.